someone who we always appreciate coming on the show, whether it be my regular show or this show here on Proud on Texas, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. As always, sir, thank you very much for calling in today.
Hey, Chad, it's always a pleasure to be with you or Robert. So I get the bonus this time. I have you on his show with his intro music.
Absolutely.
So that's all good stuff.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you coming on, and
Sure.
I had contacted your office earlier in the week about having you on, and so many things have happened that we're going to talk about a few different things today. One of those being HB2, and I know some numbers were released today about how many abortions took place after HB2. Of course, HB2 got blown up by the United States Supreme Court. So first, I want you to go into these numbers that have been released and tell our audience the good that came out of HB2 when it was around.
Yeah, well, HB2 had four elements in it. One was, and I was one of the co-writers of the bill, and we were very careful how we crafted it with legal scholars and constitutional scholars, so it would pass muster with the Supreme Court if it ever got that far. What we didn't count on was to have what I would call a corrupt and biased, unfair Supreme Court that no longer follows the law or the Constitution, but they bend it, as Clarence Thomas said, to fit their ideology. But it had four components. Component number one is ban abortions after 20 weeks. That the courts did not overturn that. The second part of the bill was that this was the part I focused on. Besides that ban, was that abortions happen either surgically or through a drug that will induce the abortion, a drug that will kill the baby, sadly. And the abortion doctors that I've found out over years of testimony were not even following the drugs, which put the women in danger. You can die if you take the prescription, just like any other prescription. If you don't follow what the pharmaceutical company says that the FDA recommend, it can kill you or make you very sick. And so they didn't strike down that part of the bill. But they did strike down the two provisions that I thought were just, how could anyone disagree with this? What our bill said was that an abortion clinic, and I'm as pro-life as you can be. I passed the sonogram bill. I've always worked on this issue long before I was in office. But if a woman is going to have an abortion, then she needs to have it in a safe, sterile environment that is up to the standards of outpatient surgery centers or any emergency room. Any place should have surgery. I mean, when you go in, if you break your leg and you go to one of these 24-hour emergency centers, or you go to an emergency room, or you have elective day surgery, you don't go in there thinking, well, what's the standard of care? You expect it to be equal to any other place you would have surgery, and that's all we ask. In this bill, we said the abortion clinics must meet that standard. And the Supreme Court said no, that women can have an abortion in an environment that does not meet the standards. It doesn't have to be a sterile environment. It doesn't have to be any medical professionals there except the doctor performing the abortion. There doesn't have to be any emergency backup plan. It's insanity to me. And that's why we really, truly, look, we always want to save lives and cut down on abortions, but we were looking out for women's safety and women's health. And the other part of the bill said that they struck down, any doctor performing an abortion must have a working agreement with a hospital within 30 miles. In the event an emergency happens, a hemorrhaging, anesthesia, whatever it might be, where the patient's life is in danger, that they would have an automatic admittance to a hospital. And they struck that down. Tell me, if that's not radical, if that's not ideology on the left of the court, I don't know what is.
Yeah, I mean, it's common sense solutions is what you all came up with in HB2. The ACLU, they've weighed in. They have said that HB2 had devastating effects on women, and I'm not sure exactly what that means because more babies were born. So I don't know if those are the devastating effects according to the ACLU. I'm not sure exactly where they're coming from there.
Yeah, well, and it is so sad, and we've seen the numbers published today, and we had not seen them officially, but we had heard some unofficial numbers because it always takes, we're always a year or so behind because they have to compile the data, sure. And so abortions dropped 14% as a result of HB2 and the sonogram bill that I wrote in 2011. Our abortions, we were leading the country, sadly, 80,000 abortions a year. So 14% is about 12,000. I have not seen the official numbers today. I've been traveling all day, but I was told it was 14% about what we thought. And so you see the Wendy Davis crowd and the abortion crowd and the ACLU decrying these numbers, how terrible this is, how terrible everyone, even if you're pro-choice, you ought to be celebrating life. There are about 10 to 12,000 2- and 3-year-olds running around today acting like 2- and 3-year-olds act because of this legislation. If the result, our true purpose was to make sure the environments were safe for women. But obviously, if you end up as a result having fewer abortions and saving lives, that's something that everyone should celebrate. And now the truth is, because of Anthony Kennedy, I had no hope for the other justices, but I thought Kennedy would be with us. Because of him, thousands of babies are going to die innocently in the womb because of him, and the women are going to be subjected to this procedure in an unsafe environment. And so I don't want to hear this nonsense that the Democrats on the left care about women. This was a Republican-passed bill that only had one Democrat in the entire legislature vote for it. So this nonsense that, the Republicans are anti-women, we're pro-women. Every time I hear a Democrat say we're pro-women, how about those females in the womb? How about those little girls that you're taking their life away before they're born? I don't think that's very pro-women.